This is another one of my clips on building a portrait using pastel pencils, and this time I'm going to be showing you how to shape a nose. This is one of the most interesting parts of a portrait. I've always enjoyed it, and I think you will too. Now we're going to start off by lightening certain areas, like for instance there's the light source, that's in the centre or one side of the bulbous area of the nose. Now the other thing we want to do is to put some light in. And I'm using the white here because we've got a sand coloured paper, and I always use this colour paper. I want to lighten up the paper. Now you see I'm doing it in sections. I'm not doing it all over for the moment. I'm just doing it in a light. What we do right from the beginning on shaping a feature like this is to try to get as quick as we can the shape. Now I'm not doing the lips, I'm going just above the lips. This will be another clip later on. But what I will do is to show you the skin, and we'll take it down to there. So everywhere I put the white, really, basically, that's where I'm going to be doing it. Now, you notice I haven't put anything in here at the moment, but what I'm going to do then is I'm going to use another colour, which is ivory. And the ivory colour is a brilliant colour for as the base. And even with just these two colours, you start seeing the shape emerge. And then what we do is we use a pink. Now the pink I'm using is 132 in the Faber range, but any light pink will do. And what we do is go over the whole lot except for the area that we've created the light. Now this is really easy at this stage. It doesn't get difficult until you start bringing the stronger colours in. Okay, which in fact is what we're going to be doing now. Now this, when I say stronger colours, this is actually, it's 189 in the Faber range. It's not really a strong colour, but it's stronger than what we've used. Now what we're doing now is we want to just shape, go over the line, if you've got a line drawing, which you may well have, of this exercise, go over the lines that we've got, including them, and then that gives you the shape. Now so far it is pretty easy, I think you'll agree. Okay, let's admit I've got to turn this around a little bit. I'm sorry about it, but I have to because I'm not facing it, but I am now. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to create some shading. Using the side of the point of the pencil, we just create a little shading, going by that area, bulbous area on the nose. And just create a little bit of shape, very light to start with. And under there, now under there, we've got just again where the cheek finishes, basically, and then into there, and the same again on that side. And once again, everything is very mild at the moment. Although it's a darker colour, it looks dark. Look, when it hits the lighter colours we've already put on, it lightens up, you see. You don't get it quite so strong. Now the other thing we want to do is we want to link these two. Let me just drop this down a little bit. I've already put the skin in here, and you see this is a very nice skin tone, but it does look different to this. So what we do now is we link the two up. Put a little bit more white in, especially there. This is where the light source would be most prominent, and there would be a little bit of light coming from the cheek. Key to this is to take your time. There's no hurry at all in doing this, and the wonderful thing about the pastel pencil, it allows you to do that. Can you see already the beginning of something happening there? A little bit of ivory here. This is what I did originally, putting where you've got the side of the nose, where you've got just very slight change of tone, and in here there would be two. We put that in ivory, and then we bring back now all the pink and put the pink in, a little bit of pink, and then the 189. Now the 189 is very light. We don't want very much of this in there. The paper that I use, the ombre paper, has got a tooth. That's why you can see these ridges running across, but they will all but disappear as we move on. And what we're going to do now is try with this one just to create the bulbous end of the nose. Do you see that bit there? This is where, if you wiggle, put your fingers on your nose and wiggle it, you'll see there's a little round bobbly bit there. It looks odd when I do it like that, but gradually as we work through the sequence, it improves. Okay, now that's fine. Now we've got as far as we can really with the darker colours. We don't want to put any more strength in, but what I'm going to use now is a 187 in the Faber range. Now this is the key colour. This is the colour that you see. Let me just push it down. This is the colour that you see in evidence everywhere else. It's an ochre. On its own, it wouldn't work, but mixed with these other colours, it works really well. Once again, we go over that. Once again, we create the bobble. And the other thing we do now is we start developing the shape a little more. See? And then down in here, a very light touch. If I was to press this, you would be amazed at how strong this colour would be on here, but we don't want that. That's not what we're looking for. Now, because we've got that now, we've got a little bit of shadow. We put a little bit of shadow under there and under there. And the nose also, because the light's hitting this, there will be a little bit of shadow on that bit area too. So we put that again using the side of the point of the pencil very, very lightly. And then we can also add just a little bit of the colour into the other areas, very, very light. Now, this is when it starts getting interesting, folks, because we're going to use a colour shaper. And if you haven't got one of these, you can use a blender. That is a paper blender. But really, these are the better instruments. Now, what we're doing now is putting a little bit of pressure on and starting to fade those areas. Now, you see how this is all going to work out really nicely. If I just do this half and leave this half alone, you'll see the difference between the two. Come round there and round there, following the same idea that you had with the pencil. Okay, now there we are. Now, isn't that nice? You see the difference between the two halves. Let's just carry on then. Now, in here, and do the other half. Again, just blending it out. It's amazing, isn't it, that those pencils can make such a big difference to it. Now, having done that, we've now got to bring some shape back. And how I do that is with the white pencil. Put a little bit of white on here, but not all over. We want to leave a little shadow running around here. Now this little area there, that's going to be darker, so we want just a little bit of the light back in here. But what we want to do, if we bring the white to there and leave this area, don't touch that for the moment. You see how that works now? That's the bulbous end of the nose, which looks totally different to what it did earlier. Okay, and just a little bit down here as well, just a touch. So we've got a bit of light coming down here. I want to leave that the area that I'm indicating with my pencil alone for the minute, and then we just leave it so that what we get is a slight division between the two. Now we come up here. I want to, you see down here we've got a slight shadow, so I want to leave that, and then we continue up with the white. Very, very light touch. You see how simple this is to do. Very, very light touch on there. That's great. Another area we've got to think about is over here. Now you would have a reference picture if you were using it, or you've got the reference picture here to look at if you want to in mine. But you see how this is all beginning to work out, yeah? Now down here we come down with our white just there, because this is where the cheek ends, and we put a little bit of white there. Now what we want to leave is a little shadow running around here. Okay, we come down like that. And a little bit of shadow. Now there's a shadow dropping here. It's not very strong, but it's there. So we just leave that for the moment. Come in there. And then down here, cut in a little bit. Not too, don't press hard at all at any point in time, because you're going to start to crush the paper and we don't want that to happen. Okay. Now there we are. Now look at the difference that is making. There we are. Now let me just show you now. If I use my colour shaper again, it's always a good idea when you do this just to take off some of that pastel, and then we've got a clean, and then we just very, 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 very lightly, folks, I can't emphasize this enough, just gently. This is a very delicate kind of picture, so what we want to do is to create that delicate touch. You see, now how good is that? And this is really at this halfway stage, without the depth. Very, very light touch. Look at the shading we've got around there. Isn't that fabulous? And down in here. And just a little touch into there and into there. We can fade it too, so what we don't have to have is hard lines. But I like that very much. Now, what we can do now is just put a little bit more white on there. Just in one spot, like that. And then we can work it. Because it's best to do it in little sections. A little time, because you're learning all the time. You see how suddenly that jumps alive? Okay, now let's move on, because we've got to put some more strength in. I'm coming back with the 187 now. This is the one we used before, and I'm going to put some more shadow in there. And we can be a little bit more delicate now with it. And we can be also a touch stronger too. Not too strong, because we want to start, as I say, crushing the paper. But bring that down. Because we've got the light and the dark, and we know we've already got experience of that, we can also add, especially there, a little bit more. I'll just do this half. You'll see how this is working. Now we do the same thing again. We use our colour shaper just to blend that in. You do a little bit at a time. See? Like that. Now I'm going to do this half of the nose and leave that for the moment, because then you can see how this all works. Now we need to darken it down a bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in what we call a 283 on the Faber range, but it is a burnt sienna, and this is a darker colour. Now this is going to make quite a difference. So we come down on the line that we've done before, in here, and darken, and that is scary. You think, oh gosh, isn't that strong? Well, it is, but it can be faded because we've got all those colours underneath, and a little touch of very, very tiny touch of colour on there. It's a good idea. I'm not doing that half, so remember we're only doing this half at the moment. And because there's a shadow there, we can also bring just a little bit of shading in there too. Now, what we've got to do now is to blend that in. I'm using the corner of my colour shaper here just to develop that strength. As I said, when you get the stronger colours, it gets a little bit more scary. But all of this can be brought back again, as you will see. Like that. Okay. Now we just make it, I want to make it just a little stronger there. So we come in with our 283 again and just deepen it a little more. Like that. We can also come in with our 187, which we used to start with, and make it just that little bit stronger. Like that. Again, blending out. You always notice when I go quiet, I'm focusing and concentrating. Now, isn't that lovely? But it's not the finish of it yet, because we've got other colours. Now I'm going to use a 190, which is a sort of red-ish colour. And I'm going to put a little bit of 190 in it, but not just there, but I also want 190 in here too, just to add a little extra oomph. And let's just see what that. Do you see how little I put on there? But it's enough to tint. Now we've got that shading there. As long as you put all the colours on that I've showed you before, you've got no problem with this. This is all going to work out. we now come back in with our colours again. Now we can use an ivory pencil, which I would do here, because that is a very good blender. So what we use the ivory for is actually blending now. This is the colour we put on in these stronger areas. I'll just do a little bit here to show you how it works. And down here too. And now we want some white back in again. And what we do is we sculpture this area like that. I'm going to put some darker colour on that in a minute, just a little. And what we do here, we do that. Watch this, folks, because this is fascinating to see. We then, because we have a link up, the muscles in the face now, what we're doing is linking that up with that. That's it. Now, having done that, we now want that to create that effect. Isn't that nice? Use your colour shaper. This time we can then do that, which I think is great. Now we want some colour in here, so I want to now get the same colour as that. So I'm going to put a little bit of 187. This is all about adjustment all the time. You're adjusting the tones, adjusting the colour. This is now the same colour as above. And we come in with the white again. I'm focusing just on this one section because this is actually how you do the whole lot, but just one little bit I can show you better. Now just in here there's a little bit of white. If we just put a little bit of white there, like that, just a touch. Again, it's all little muscles that are there, and we put just a little touch of 187 like that, and then use our colour shaper. We get just another very tiny bit of light that comes in there. Now if we then go back in with our 283, which we used earlier, but this time just picking up the very, very darkest part of that. Can you see how it's all working now? Look at that. Look at that, folks. Isn't that fabulous? Okay, well, now what I'll do is I'll do the other half. Then I'll show you how we actually finish off the nose, because we're very close to finishing now. That's looking absolutely stunning. The only thing that I would do here is that just before I go, is we have a lot of pink in there, and what if you look up here, there's not. But what I've done is use this colour, which is 182. You can ochre. Now by putting 182, it kind of brings a little bit of ochre back into it. Let me just show you how that works. You get a balance. Instead of it being too pinky, we're starting to be ochre now. So let me just use my colour shaper. You see how little I put on? You don't need a lot. It's just a little touch. That's looking really nice now. That colour is lovely. And down here, look, you see, we can say, well, now we need a little bit more shadow there. So the 283. Burnt sienna again, use that. We can use 187, as we're doing this a lot in a little while, very fast and furious, to give you an idea of how this is all beginning to work out. Let's look at that. It's all done with the colour shape. If we hadn't got that, we'd have been in trouble. And just by way of, because I love doing faces, and they are so fascinating. What I'm going to do is going to bring this white just across here now, but I do a little bit more white there, and blend it very, very lightly in, and we get that. Look at that now, isn't that nice? Okay, I'm going to do the other side, because there's no point in seeing me do the whole thing again, and then we'll come back and we'll finish it off. almost finished. What I'm going to do now is going to add just a little bit of colour, and this is 190 in the Faber range, and that's 118, which is the red, and this is sort of a muted red. And what we do, we just put a little bit of colour in this young lady's cheeks. And just first of all, very, very light touch, as you can see, but it just adds a bit of extra. I've already put some in already, so I just need this a little bit more. Just again, you blend it exactly the same way as you've done before, and it blends in really nicely. It could be faded a little bit. Now, having done that, you've also got some on your colour shaper, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit into. I don't really want to put the colours, those two colours, onto this part of the skin. It'll be too severe, but there's nothing wrong with just almost using this colour as a palette, just to influence the colour. Just very. I don't think you could be able to see that, but it is really, really nice looking. Okay, a couple of small things I'm going to do is here. I just want to put just a little bit more of a line here. Not really, there isn't really one there, but I will match it the other side. And you just fade that again. Because we've got so much colour on here, so many under base colours, it's working really, really nicely. Okay, that's lovely. Lovely. Okay, now the next thing we can do is to just use the white pencil, and that will create even more dimension. Everything will jump out at us. We don't really need any more dark in here. So let me start off with the nose. Now, the nose itself, I pulled back so you can see this better. We're starting up here. We've got quite a lot of light here, so we put that in there, in the centre area, and then we hit the bulbous area on the end of the nose. And we don't want to make this too obvious, but we do want it a little bit stronger than that, and a little bit like that. Very, very light touch. You see how I'm holding the pencil? It's just touching the surface, and just in there I want that to be just a little stronger now. It just picks it out. You can see it all happening in front of your eyes. There's just a little bit of a light there on this part of the nose where the light's catching it, just there. And of course that would also be on that. I've got to use the point here because it's such a small area. Now the other area, this is getting a bit of in shadow, but here it's not. So just here where I was putting the ivory earlier, we want to put some light here and fade that. And that's the start of the lips, where the lips would be. She's smiling, so she's stretching the lips, and then we bring that down there. Once again, notice how light that, because she's stretching that area, we don't really have that familiar dip, but I'm going to put a little bit of that in anyway to suggest it. And then just across here, and in here, we've already got that little bit there that I showed you earlier on. I like that. And then we just bring in from there. And this could be done several times. You don't have to do it all in one go. I mean, when I finish this, I shall work off camera and do my own little thing. Now here again, that area that I liked earlier, bring that in there. Yeah. As I said before, this is great fun, and you should enjoy it. Now we're not doing the lips in the sequence, so this will be another sequence. I've already done the eyes and the hair. If you look back through the sequences, you'll find them, and a bit of the skin. There we are. Now that really is all we need. Now we need a nice, clean colour shaper, and use the colour shaper. As I said, you may have to do this a couple of times, and that just blends into what. Follow the same line you did with the pencil. And that down there, there. See how it all melds together. Not really need to do that. That's too small an area. Just there. I'm just diffusing that a little bit because Although I put it on originally, it's just a little bit too pronounced. So I'm just diffusing it enough, that's good. And I'm going to put a pinpoint of light back in there in a minute. And we bring this down here like this, following the same idea of the white pencil. And isn't that coming up to stand fantastic? If you're wondering who my model is, I'm afraid she's made up of quite a few different photographs and references that I've got, and then also my own imagination. So I'm afraid this young lady doesn't exist. More's a pity. There we are. Isn't that nice? Now I think that that is stunning. I really do. Now the only thing that is left for me to do is just put just a touch in there. Just a very, very pinpoint of white in there. And that just puts a little bit of sparkle in the nose. Now, if you wanted to, there is more you could do. I mean, this is a very basic and very simple. I have made this as simple as I can. But there are things you could do. You could put just a little bit of, I'll show you, a little bit of shading here, for instance. This is 187 I'm using, like that. And you could touch that in. Now you'll say, I can't see much difference here. But there is one, because we've got then, it's all to do with the muscles in the nose. And if you use the ivory pencil there and just come down here, you'd pay attention to yet another slight change. Anyway, I'll leave that to you. I think she looks lovely. I'll pull back and so you can see the whole thing as we've got it so far. But the next thing I'm going to be doing at a later date is the lips, and I will include the chin in that sequence too. Well, there we are, folks, the finished picture. I think you'll agree that that looks really stunning. So if you've enjoyed it, then try the eye exercise and the hair exercise, and the next one I'm going to be doing is the mouth and teeth, and that will be worth waiting for. And also, I'm sure the young lady will be pleased. She'll be able to speak and eat then. Bye for now.